Okay, welcome to Skowhegan Over the Decades, produced by Joyce Wakeham Foley, whose avid interest in Skowhegan's history is bringing us some exceptional memories of the town. Thank you, Joyce. The show is being videographed by John Harlow, station manager for Somerset Community TV 11, and I am your host, Darla Pickett, former bureau chief of the Morning Sentinel and currently content editor of special sections supplements at the Sentinel. And most importantly, last but not least, our guest today is Carl McKenney of Skowhegan, a former fire chief and a history buff himself, with his interest and research in Skowhegan cemeteries on top of everything else. He's been a busy man. He's married to Gail, 57 years now. Is it still 57? They have 7 children, 10 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren. He's retired as fire chief, by the way. He served as a Skowhegan police officer for several years. I forgot you served as emergency management director. Member of the Skowhegan Planning Board, the Budget and Finance Committee, the Heritage Council, the Cemetery Committee, election warden and ballot clerk, a member of the E911 addressing committee, an emergency management director for Somerset County, and has worked for the town of Skowhegan in one way or another since July of 1965. So welcome, Carl. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to do a one-two-man show, one woman, one man show we're going to start off talking about the markets in Skowhegan, but heaven knows where that will lead us. But we're going to start talking about where the stores were and where people shopped, and we'll go from there. So what's your first memory of shopping and you knew where the stores were? As a young man, probably a little boy maybe with your mother? Or were there many?
I don't really remember. The little markets that I remember when I was younger was probably the first one that comes to mind, and I was an adult, was the Pine Tree Market on Madison Avenue. It's it used to be on the corner of Madison Avenue and Hanover Street.
Okay.
And I clerked there for a little while. That's why one of the reasons I remember it. Plus, I knew the owners at the time was Ernest and B. Gagne, and so I frequented that store quite a bit.
Was that the same Gagne that owned the shoe store later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
Then that market later was owned by Richard York.
Oh, okay.
Percy's brother, older brother.
That's not the one that was in front of where Evelyn Bowman lives now, on North Avenue. I'm thinking the wrong place.
No, the one on North Avenue that I think you might be thinking of is where Provincial's market was.
Okay, and then Floyd's.
Richard Provincial.
Yep.
Then Richard Blewett owned the market there.
Yep.
And there was, when you stop and think about it, there was little markets all over town. And I can think of another one that I remember quite a bit was Sherry's on South Factory Street. Jones's Market was on what used to be East Front Street, now the Waterville Road, and that later became Belleville's Market.
Yep.
Belleville's, not Belleville's, but
Yep.
Belleville's.
Now, how old were you when you worked at the Pine?
Oh goodness, I was married when I worked there in my early 20s probably. And
Do you remember the cost of items back then? Anything?
no, I am sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I remember one incident that happened there when I was working there, and I was alone and hadn't been there very long, and this gentleman came into the store that I knew, we all know. I won't mention the name.
That might be safe.
He was rather intoxicated, and he wanted some steak. Well, I didn't know how to cut steak. There was meat there, but I didn't know how to cut steak. So, to make a long story short, he wound up cutting his own steak. And he paid for it and left the market. But that's something I remember about that store.
Did you work there very long?
I worked there probably a year and a half, something like that. And it was just a part-time job.
Yeah.
Something for a little bit of money.
I'm trying to picture where it was.
Right on the south corner. Later on, Noe's Stove was on the corner, and there's a garage there now that takes up most of the space. You know where C.W. Yetton was? Yetton's garage on Hanover Street?
Vaguely.
Well, it would have been the second place in. You had the store on the corner,
Okay.
and as you headed down, and there's
Yeah.
still a garage there now where Yetton used to be. I think it's Brand. I'm
Oh.
not sure. It used to be Sam Brand used to have a garage there
I
too.
remember that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was on the opposite corner where the glass shop is today, where they
Oh, okay.
on the opposite
Oh,
corner.
okay. I know where you are now.
Yeah.
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 And then down the street, just a little ways, was Kai's Market. And that was on the corner of Silver and Madison Avenue, right opposite of where the Franklin Bank is.
Yep.
And then down the avenue further, there was, I can't think of any other grocery stores. I know there was some grocery stores down there long before my time. I found through research where there was grocery stores right down on the beginning of Madison Avenue, Water Street, in that area there.
So we're kind of starting all over again with little stores.
Yeah.
You notice
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, George's Market is not new, but
No.
we're starting to move back towards.
The thing that I think people would notice most about little stores versus the stores that we have today, almost all those little stores, people run credit. You
Yeah.
don't run credit anymore.
No.
At least in the bigger towns. Some of the small communities you might, I'm not sure, but almost all those little stores, if you wanted something, you went there and put it on credit, and you paid every week, and that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because I know I'm going a little slightly out of Skowhegan, but I grew up in North Anson, and there was the Elm Street Market on the corner,
Mhm.
going up Route 16. And my mother worked there for a time, and they always had the meat
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep.
And they sure did.
Yep.
People would call in. I got to tell a funny little story. There was a woman who she was a great cook, and my mother said she used to buy vanilla by the case. Back when vanilla had stuff
yeah,
in it.
yeah. I knew a man that did that.
Really?
Yes, yes. Yeah, he used to do that. Most of his came out of the A&P, when that was downtown Skowhegan.
And that was down where.
That was down where Aubuchon Highway just
Aubuchon
moved
Highway,
out.
Yeah.
And he had a little problem, and he'd buy a lot of that.
Yeah, they don't have the
Vanilla.
alcohol in it anymore, do they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. When did Lessards come into being? Was that later on? That was more recent?
The first Lessards that I remember was where the dance studio is now, where Brad's Dance.
Oh, okay.
If I remember right, and I might be wrong, and I know that Pooler's Market was in there as well. And something tells me that Lessard was there first, but maybe not. But then Lessard, another one that I do remember for sure, was on the corner of Lessard and Madison, North Avenue, right across from the Catholic Church, cemetery.
Cemetery. That's where I went. When I moved into Skowhegan, I moved in 68, 69. That's where I did the majority of my shopping,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that was a busy place back then.
Yeah, that's where they were before they went into the IGA, where that was later on, they moved from the little store, to the IGA,
And the IJ was where?
right where the ice cream place is today,
Oh, okay,
right
okay.
across from,
So before that, it was Lessards, and it
yeah,
became
right on the
IJ?
corner of Leshaw Street, which is a little street on the right, just if you're coming up North Avenue before you get to the old IGA.
Oh, okay.
That was Lessard's grocery store, and if I remember right, they also lived there as well.
Really?
And then when they done away with that, they went into the IGA.
Was there a store, or is that fairly new, where that little pizza slice bar is now, right beside the ice cream place.
I don't remember a store being there.
You don't?
No.
Oh.
No.
Was there one down next to the town hall?
There was one fairly close there at Max Market.
Max Market.
Yep. And I think the gentleman that owned that was Malin McCurdy. I think that was his name. And I can just remember that being down there. And that was located right along in the area. I think there's a tax office there now, a small tax office.
Yep.
Or a lawyer's office.
Yep.
Just before where Variety Drug used to be.
Yes, I remember when Variety
Yep.
Drug was there.
Yep.
Because that was when I started working. I was editor at the Somerset Reporter, and that's in that little building.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something else before it was a, what was that before it was a reporter, news?
Well, before the Reporter used to be on Water Street was Sampson's supermarket.
Okay,
Yep.
that was a supermarket.
Yes, it was. Richard Sampson's. As far as I know, it was his first store in Skowhegan before they built the one over in the plaza across the river.
I forgot that was there too.
Yeah.
It was never in the recreation part though, that was just in that one building.
We're just in that one building. And the recreation part, if I remember right, was his offices, where Richard's offices were.
Do you ever know what happened to the swimming pool? Why it never?
I don't remember the politics of it, no.
I don't, I can't find out either.
No.
So there were other stores downtown, smaller ones.
Yes, from research that I've done, and I don't know them right off the quick, but there was other stores downtown on Madison Avenue and as well as Water Street. But the only ones I remember is Max Market, and I don't remember anything else on North Avenue except LaBelle's.
Oh yes.
Used to be LaBelle's
Is
Market.
that where the guy waves now?
Yes.
Yes.
And that I don't know who had that before LaBelle. And then John Laney was in there for a while after LaBelle sold it. But there was several markets up and down there, some provincials, Pluids, as we've already mentioned.
That provincial any relation to John?
Not that I'm aware of. His Mr. Provincial's wife still lives in the house right next to where the store used to be.
Really?
I think her name is Abby. I'm not sure of that.
Oh, Abbey Provincial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's in front of where Ellen lives.
Okay, I think that's the little store that was there. That's when they.
Oh, okay.
And then when you go to the south side, I remember from my school days, there was a little market between the end of the South Channel Bridge and the intersection called Gurney's Market. And then right up on the corner itself was Sturch's. I don't know who might have owned that prior to Mr. Sturch, but they owned it for a long time.
And that was when, talk about the way people that, who'd you just mention as the dance studio? Brad. His studio was over there on the right-hand side going, and then there was Sturch's. There was that and the flower shop and Sturch's when I came to town.
Yeah, I forgot about the flower shop being over there, yeah.
Yep.
You're right. Yep.
Because that's where my kids first took tap dancing.
Yep. Yep.
And Sturch's lasted quite a long while. I think he didn't want to move out of there.
He was there, it was there a long time.
It wasn't it's now an inn. It's not an inn. It's
Southside Grocery.
Southside. That was
Yeah.
a grocery store.
Yeah, that was a grocery store, and I think it was the one I remember owning. It was Horace Fortier.
Okay.
When I was around town all the time, and that store was. You could always remember you could go there and buy some good meat. Horace always had some good meat, and he'd cut it. So if you wanted a good steak, that was the place to go get it.
Now, how is it we've changed I'm kind of including Gail, she's out there in the audience. How is it things have changed so that we're so used to, why was it so important to have so many little ones and now it's become, could they not make money at it perhaps? Because there were so many of
I'm
them?
not sure. My personal thought is that the big businesses just took over, and the little guy couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah,
And I think it's much the same today. Your big box stores are here. The little stores can't compete, price-wise.
price-wise.
And I think it's too bad because
I don't know that, we're so used to it now, I don't know that I would go to a small store even if, because you want to get everything all at once. So you're in such a hurry. You don't want to run to the store every day. I suppose, too, there was a lot to do with keeping things fresh back then, that we don't have that problem
yeah,
now.
yeah. There's a number of reasons for it,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's funny to have, and it's typical actually when you look at, the little mom and pop stores, you look at your gasoline service stations. They used to be all over the place, and today they're not there. They're gone.
Yeah, it's the same way with all big companies. I thought there was a law against, I know, what is it, antitrust laws, was it? The law where you can't have controlling interest of any one thing under one.
I think we
Boy.
run a fine line with that. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But
Now, one of the things that I remember about my store was penny candy. Do you remember the penny candy?
oh yes, yeah. That's all we had was pennies, so that's the only way we could buy candy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
My mother liked Mary Jane's, and I liked the little hot balls and the candy cigarettes. You can't get penny candy anymore. They won't.
No.
It's more than a penny. There's no such thing as penny candy anymore.
Another store that I forgot that was downtown, and I'm sure that you remember this, DB's.
Oh, yes.
DB's was downtown, where
Oh,
the Thai
yes.
restaurant is today.
Yeah, I shopped there.
Yep,
And
that
then,
was there for a long time.
remember a health food store, Spice of Life, went in there first. Because I remember they had the beautiful tile floors. Do you remember that?
I'd forgotten it, but you're right.
And then I don't know if they moved directly from there up off Madison Avenue. But I remember I was real pleased that they opened that little
Yeah.
store. It was real nice down there. And then, who owned the place across where Whittemore's is? Because that had a nice tile floor, and it had, you could buy sundaes and ice creams and.
Oh, the one on the corner where,
Lico's.
okay, Lico's.
Lico's.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a soda bar. That was a kids hangout. That's where all of us hung out
Is ya?
when we was at school.
You too?
No,
No?
no. See, we had Lico's that we hung out in, Beanie's Diner and Bean's Restaurant. Those were places where most teenagers hung out when we was growing up.
So Beanie's Diner and Beanie's Restaurant were two different things?
Two different things, yeah.
Okay. Now, there must have been more across the river than that. We've
Yeah,
gone up and down Madison and North Avenue, but there must.
Well, and up, you go up what is now the Waterville Road, used to be East Front, you had Jones's Market.
Okay.
And then later on it was Belleville.
Okay.
And the used car lot is there now. And I don't remember any other grocery stores in that particular area. There was a little store down in Milburn Street. It was a little store right on the corner of Milburn and Railroad Crossing Place, but I don't remember the name of the owner.
Yeah, because that was pretty active back then, because remember Katie Willette's father owned
Henry's Hardware.
Henry's Hardware
Yes.
down there in the corner, and that was pretty
well,
busy back then.
Henry's Hardware was up off on Chestnut Street, which is off North Avenue.
What was the place that was down the corner when you go down around?
When you went down a crossing place down to Milburn Street, then right on the corner you had a little market,
That was
And if you went
before
down
me.
the street, you had Agway,
Ah,
or Eastern States. It used to be early on, but then it was Agway.
see, I remember as a child, and maybe it wasn't the case in Skowhegan, but you didn't go out of town. We went to Madison to shop. Did you go to Waterville to shop, or did you? Everybody pretty much stayed?
No, when I was growing up as a kid, we lived in Athens, and if we had to do any major shopping, it was in Skowhegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everything was there. So
Waterville, I don't know how old I was when I first went to Waterville.
I know, same here. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I think the first time I went was we went to when Stearns was there too. We had Stearns here
Yeah,
and Stearns there. How about West Front Street? There was a store where
Clark's Market is today. Well, right, it's not the same store, but I think the store was it got an art gallery or something in there today?
yes.
That was
was
the
the
store.
store.
Yeah.
And then Luann Barnes
Yeah.
opened West Front Street
Yeah.
Market, and it's my
Yeah.
understanding there was a store there, and she tore down part of it and
Yes.
added to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if she tore it down and added to it or just tore the whole thing down and built a new one, but they tore down the old one. That's gone.
It's
And I don't remember.
it's a rare bird that makes a success of those. It would seem that Luann has made a success of that, and it would seem that we've got a success at George's Market.
Yeah.
But to create a small store and keep your
Well,
head above water.
I think in her case, she's being one. She's got the things that people are looking for. I think she's got alcoholic beverages. She's got food. She got a place for people to come and eat, sit
Yeah.
down and eat,
yeah.
and
And
that's
she's a
one of the
go-getter.
yeah, she is, and that's one of the places where they hold town meeting on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And a lot of these little mom and pop places, that's what they used to be. People would go there and they talk about everything under the sun, usually what was going on in town,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a fun place to go. And
Now, was that back, or am I stretching way back, when you used to have pickled eggs in barrels and pickles and things like that at the counter?
yeah, that's back probably before our time.
Before our
Yeah,
time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have read about it, huh?
Yeah.
But they couldn't have been as clean as they're expected to be now.
Oh gosh, I don't think so.
No.
No. No, most of them are pretty clean today.
I noticed one of the things that Joyce put on here that I thought was interesting, and I hadn't thought of it till I saw it, is I can recall that smell that they used to put the green minty stuff on the floors, the hardwood floors.
Yeah.
The minute I read that, I could smell it. I don't know what was in it.
There was some oil products in there. We
Yeah.
used to, when I first went to work for the town at the fire station, we used that on the floors there.
I know.
Because we had wooden floors in there. And I remember using it she was speaking about Cross Hardware. I can remember them using it on the floors in Cross Hardware.
Yep.
And
It's kind of a minty.
it was, but it kept the floors oily and kept the dust down. And you had to be careful if you come in with wet feet. You could take a flip quite quickly.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Must have been some kind of a preservative in that too. I'm thinking.
I don't remember if it came in a bucket or a bag. And we used to have to kind of shuffle it around on the floor and then sweep it in.
That was the other thing too. There weren't many frozen goods back then.
I don't remember any. Not back when I was young.
See, I go back too far because my grandparents owned the store. It was called Mom and Pa Gilbert's in Oakland, right where the V is now,
Mhm.
where there's gas stations. And they used to cut ice. They sold ice.
Mm-hmm.
But that's predates us, doesn't it?
No, I remember Louis' Ice on North Avenue. I remember them selling ice.
Really?
Yes.
So that was when it was an ice box, not a refrigerator. When you
Right.
So do we cut things
Well,
up?
I think it was in a transition period where some people still had ice boxes,
Yeah.
especially a lot of people that had that were fortunate enough to have camps
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Before
Yep.
they had electricity,
Yep.
they still had their ice boxes and stuff that they were using.
Now, do you remember who your employer was when you worked at
When I worked at the grocery store,
Yeah.
it was Ernest and B. Gagne.
Ernest and B. Gagne?
Yeah. And I had known them a long time. They had also at one time owned a store in Athens.
Really?
A grocery store, yeah. And that's where I first met the family. And another one I recall, and I think it was Ernest's stepfather was Forrest Seabury.
Yep.
I remember that name.
Yep.
And I know there was a connection between the two.
Yep. Now, did he sell the grocery stores and start the shoe business? Do you remember how that?
I don't remember for sure, but I think he sold the stores, the grocery stores, and bought the shoe business.
Always got my shoes there.
Yeah.
My prom shoes came from there. I can remember them. White with a little stack heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they just kept disappearing slowly? Is that?
Yeah, slowly they just kind of went by the wayside and couldn't compete with, I think probably the beginnings of it, your bigger markets was when Roderick's come in. Later on, George's, that was Roderick's market.
Oh, was
at the
it?
beginning, yeah.
I did not know that.
And then a little bit later on, and I don't know the time frame, was when Lessard's IGA went in. And then just kind of graduated. The A&P was there for a long time, and then we had the First National too, and I don't remember exactly where that was. Or maybe that First National was the one that was downtown that Sampson had. I don't remember the connection there, but there was a First National.
So those you're considering the bigger ones?
Yes.
Roderick's,
Yeah,
Lessard's.
yeah. I went from the little mom and pop ones to the bigger ones, and ultimately, your Walmarts and stuff like that today
Yeah.
in Hannaford.
I noticed, I don't know how long it's been there. I guess it's been there longer than I realized. But Hannaford has its own little meat cutting place now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same. They're in there and they're busy and they don't want to chat. Nobody wants to chat anymore. They'd rather get on that phone.
Everybody's too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe if we got back some smaller mom and pop stores, we'd have more community. But in my I'm dreaming. I suppose that's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know. They say what goes around comes around. We'll have to wait and see. I don't expect it will happen, but you don't know. But if you look around in the area, in the small communities, even the stores there have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
So,
Like
I don't
Athens,
know.
for instance, I think they have a pretty going business.
Yeah.
I don't think they don't even have to come to Skowhegan if they don't want to.
Well, I remember as a kid growing up there that we had 3 stores, and now basically they've got just one.
Did you grow up in town or outside town?
I lived in both, in and out. When we first moved there, I lived right in town, right in the village. And then later on, I lived up on the Brighton Road and about a mile out of town. And later on, we lived up on the Fox Hill Road and the Buzzell Road, which is about 4 or 5 miles out of town.
Where did you go to school back then?
I started school at the elementary school in Athens, what
Yeah.
used to be, that's a house now.
Really?
Yeah. And then I went to my first year of high school at Somerset Academy
Which is
in Athens.
in Athens.
Yeah.
They just refurbished that as a museum, didn't they?
Yeah, they've got some museum in there. They've got the American Legion is in there, and there's a church group that uses it quite a lot.
So you never came into Skowhegan. That wasn't back when they brought you into Skowhegan to go to high school?
No, I moved to Skowhegan in 1956. That's when I started high school in Skowhegan.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you say I moved? The family moved?
The family moved.
Family
Yeah, we
moved.
used to live out on the middle road.
Ah,
Yeah, just between about exactly a mile beyond the hospital.
Didn't you, the last time we spoke, you worked on farms, yes?
I did as a teenager.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
While I was in school, all over town. Well, down in Cornville, I worked on a farm in Cornville for the Weeks family. I worked for the Whittemore family, Myron and Margaret Whittemore out on the Notch Road. And I worked for Rudy Dion, the Middle Road,
Doing what?
as a farm laborer.
Milk cows?
Yep. Milk cows, hayed, cut wood, whatever needed to be done on the farm. Yep. And on the Whittemore farm and actually on all three of them, I boarded there during the summer when I wasn't in school.
So, did you go to work, you boarded there, but before that, did you like go to work before you went to school and then after school?
Mostly it was after school.
Mostly it was after
Yeah.
school. Because I know my son-in-law tells me about having a job before he went to school,
Mm-hmm.
a bread run.
Yep.
And then after school, he never played sports or got to do any of that
Yeah.
because he had a job after school.
I did get a chance to do some sports in school.
Did you? What'd you play?
I played baseball and basketball. Football, I had never seen a football when I first moved to Skowhegan, and I just couldn't get into it. I wish I had now. But my two younger brothers both got into it and played all through high school.
Yeah.
And, but it was a good time.
Now that was when it was over on the island.
No, when I went to high school, I was up on the hill.
Really?
Yeah, 56. Yeah.
See, we're still young.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh yeah. My sister and my two brothers went on the island.
Yeah.
And but when I graduated in '59, the family moved to Madison. So them three graduated from Madison High School.
I noticed that Joyce has Hills Market. We haven't mentioned Hills.
No, I'm not familiar with that name or.
Corvo's, Chuck's Diner. Did the Whittemores own a store or did they just own the restaurant?
I think Chuck's Diner used to be down on Lower Water Street in the area of the Eagles. In that particular, Whittemores used to own a restaurant there too. And,
Yeah.
and whether them two are tied together, I'm not really sure. But
So you never saw you weren't out late at night carousing around and seeing how rough and tumble it could get, huh?
usually if we were out carousing around, we would be, the police chief would catch up with us and send us home.
Was that back when they had what do you call the siren that goes off? Curfew.
No, that was after that. But I do remember the guys that used to work in the fire station. Some of the older guys, in order to get the beat cop downtown, they'd have to toot the fire whistle, so that the beat cop, would come and find out what was going on, where he was needed.
So then you were a cop for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah,
Just a regular officer.
yeah. Yeah. I was full-time for a little while and part-time for a number of years.
Was that was before you were fire chief? Before
Yes,
you were fire,
yeah, yeah.
Now, I remember Donna Finley telling me about her folks' place on the corner, and there was a chocolate store upstairs. Do you remember that?
I do vaguely. I remember the Wallace store,
Yep.
and I do remember, now that you mention it, being a chocolate place up there. But I can't tell you any more than that.
Yeah. See, I remember when there were several restaurants downtown too.
Yeah, there was Turcotte's restaurant,
See, I don't remember that. Three
Yeah.
G's.
and 3G's.
Yeah.
Jeans
Yes.
and 3G's, and Turcotte's used to be right just above where Stern's clothing store was.
Okay.
There was just a little small. Then Then later on, the Pine Tree Restaurant was
I
in there.
used to go there all
Okay.
the time.
That was, I think that was the same place.
Yep.
I remember the Turcotte Restaurant because a friend of mine used to work there as a cook.
Yep.
And he was a big roly-poly guy, and I remember him a lot because he used to cook for Hunter's Breakfast,
Yep.
and he would take these two fingers and flip the eggs in the frying pan.
No
Yep.
kidding.
Oh,
Ouch.
I was just amazed at how he could do that, but he did.
Well, if you do it fast enough, I guess.
Well, it seemed like you would take a spatula. He would take these two fingers and he'd flip them eggs over like that. Think nothing of it.
Yeah. Now, I was trying to think. Ernestine McIntyre, I remember she was the waitress in Pine Tree, and it was, why can't I remember her name? The one who owned it. Oh.
I know who you're talking about.
And there was a fellow, too. She was
They lived
married.
up on Main Street.
Yep. Edith.
Oh, that don't sound right to me.
Doesn't, no, it's
No.
not quite right. Not quite right.
I'll think of that someday.
Yeah, I will too. It's a shame because she came to my daughter's wedding. I should have. Happens to us all. We can't remember.
Then just above that, there was a pizza shop. It was that pizza shop when you was actually was Al's Pizza.
Yes, yes, it was.
It started out, I think, as Barry's Pizza.
Yep,
It then went to Al's Pizza.
yep.
Yep.
And you've got to read Bobby Clement's book called Skowhegan Fair. Anybody wants to read about all of, because he talks about that being Barry's Pizza.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
it's
he's-
Jerome Barry was the owner of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he talks, yes, I think he uses all the names. He turned Vincent Noonan into an officer, though.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and it's so I don't know if we've got a McKenney in there or not, but he brought everything back to Skowhegan, and calls everything by name, and the fairgrounds, the whole thing.
I'll be darned.
So it kind of is intriguing
Yeah.
because you've got to. In fact, I'll loan you my copy. You can read it.
Huh. I didn't know that any book was out like that.
He's you remember Bobby Clement used to
Yes.
live in the next park over.
Yeah.
He was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And there's
Down
some
in
wonderful
Caribbean, I
history in there. I think you all would enjoy it. He's written about 5 books.
Really?
1 or 2 have been published by actual publishers. Some are self-published. But it's really, really interesting and good. I'll bring it down. You would love it.
Yeah. Anything to do with local stuff,
He
Fits
really
right in.
pulls it out, and
Yeah.
he's pretty accurate on most of it. Well, he mentioned that up above Pine Tree was, and he said it was. They used to go in there and play a pinball machine. Was there a
Yeah.
pinball machine in there?
yes, yeah.
He talks about the pinball
That's
machine.
that's a place where the rowdies used to go from time to time.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I remember going there once when I was on the police force. I remember being sent there because another officer was being attacked, and he was. And Donald Bean, who was the cab driver,
Yep.
the cab
Yeah.
owner,
Oh yeah.
was out there trying to help the officer take care of this person. So that's one memory I have about Barry's Pizza.
And then he moved it over beside Southside.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
tucked in there
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah. And I think that's where Barry, the guy that
Partridge.
yes, yeah, thank you. I think that's where Barry started in.
Yeah. So they're no relation. I mean, there was no connection.
No, if I remember right, Barry just was working there for Jerome Barry.
Wasn't it like when it was beside Southside? I remember it being like a trailer. I don't remember it being an actual building.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
You know, funny how your mind's eye,
Yeah.
you see things differently. T.E. Oliver and Sons. Don't remember that.
No.
Glance, don't remember that.
Glance, I do remember that.
You do
that was
remember
right. That was right beside Wallace's.
Oh,
We had
okay.
Wallace on the corner, and then I think it was beside Wallace's. I'm not sure which side it was on. but there was a little market in there, and I've been trying to think of that Mr. Glant's first name, and I can't. Because I used to go in there quite a bit, especially when I was a patrolman downtown. We'd often go into these little places and chat, and I know that Mr. Glant lived on the south side of the river on Free Street area somewhere in there, but I can't remember his first name.
Who was your chief when you were an officer?
I worked for Billy Long,
Okay.
and I worked for Everett Laporte.
You did. Now
Yeah.
that's when I started, when
Yeah.
Everett was there.
Yeah.
I started working for the Somerset Reporter.
Yeah.
About that time. So I think you were there.
I probably, because it seems to me, I remember you from ever being
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got a job right away. I walked in, I remember saying, that was when the reporter was there, I said, I know I can write. I was so proud, brave back then. I said, I know I can write, and if you'll give me 2 weeks and try me out, I said, I won't even make you put my name down anywhere, and if I'm no good, you can just toss me out. and they said, okay, and I remember it was turning 100 years old then. It was the 100th anniversary of the Somerset Reporter, and they had me write the history of the Somerset Reporter. It's still rolling around somewhere. And I remember watching him through the glass windows, editing my stuff. He was editing and editing. It was way too long.
They were down on Water Street.
Right where the store was,
Okay,
where you said the store was.
Because at one time they were up on what is now Commercial Street, but it used to be Russell Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess I knew that.
One of those buildings right there, just off the corner. The building's gone now. They had to tear it down. It was getting pretty bad. And I know they've torn that down. It's where the little park is now.
Okay.
Right
Okay.
there.
Yep. Yep.
And I know that's all occurred since you've been around.
Yep. They kept me. So I must have been okay.
Must
They put
have
me on
done
the
all right.
payroll. And that's how I got my husband had just got killed in a car accident a few months earlier.
Yeah.
And I said, I was going to take care of myself. No one was going to take care of me. So I waltzed in. You know who told me about it? Scoop.
Oh, is that right?
Scoop Plummer.
Yeah.
Opening down there. You want to go see if you can do it? I said, I can do that. And I dressed all up.
Yeah, I remember that. And I don't know if you know it or not, but I was the officer on duty the night your husband died.
No, I did not know
Yeah.
that. So that was right about the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, I got killed over there by the drive-in,
Yeah,
Skowhegan
yeah.
drive-in. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Scoop Plummer wrote the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see what a very, very small world it
Very
is.
small world.
Very small world.
Yep.
And now it's a shoe store, right? It used to be Bangor Daily News was on one side, because that's how I met Bruce Furds. And then we were on the other, and then they put a shoe store in there, I guess.
They, who was it? They was making shoes in there for a while. I forget who it was now. But they were making shoes in there.
Okay.
Huh?
Was it the case?
No. It was a shoe company. In the store, the case is up
One more.
where they are now.
One more, yeah.
This is down where Samson's used to be. And like you said, in the very corner, Bangor Daily News had an office in there. And Don Bro at one point in time.
Yes, yes.
And then they put in a shoe factory, and I forget now who the heck they
I
were.
forgot Don Bro was a newspaper person.
Yeah, he worked for Bangor Daily a long time.
Oh, yes, because Pat Shaw
Pat Shaw.
worked with him.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I worked for the Bangor Daily
Yeah.
News for
Yeah.
a couple, 3 years.
Yeah.
And I just got a note from Bruce Furt, who ran the Bangor Daily News, for Christmas. He says, I never respond to you, I never respond. He says, you've been my friend for 42 years. And he gave me this nice long letter.
And where is he at now?
He is in Turner, Maine.
Oh, really?
No. Am I wrong? I might be wrong, so let me not misstate it.
But he's still in Maine.
He's still in Maine.
Yeah.
Children all grown. And
Yeah.
Of course, he worked on, I'm moving into Madison a little bit, but he helped buy Lakewood there in the beginning.
Yes.
He was one of 3 before Marty died.
Yeah.
And then he sold out. But the town changes. I wish we had more stores. We used to have. Remember when the bonnet shop was down there? Was it the Bonnet? No. What was the one with the... I bought all my clothes there at one time, and then there was Cranes. That's the only major fire we had.
Cranes was one of them that I remember. The bowling
Stern,
alley
yeah.
was another big one that we had.
That's something we ought to talk about another time too, is all the recreational facilities we
Yeah.
used to have for kids to enjoy.
But downtown is, and I think you can attribute this to the movement of the big box stores and stuff like that. Downtown used to be such a vibrant place.
Yeah.
I mean, Friday night, we used to have a patrol officer on every corner.
Really?
Because there was that many people. There was people everywhere. Shopping, the stores were always open until 9 o'clock at night.
Uh,
And, you can go to Walmart and those places they're open, but downtown it's almost a ghost town now.
well, there's nothing really that you need.
No.
No
And,
shoes, no
yeah,
clothes to
yeah.
speak of, except a little bit in that.
But WT Grant used to be downtown,
I
McClellan's was
forgot
downtown.
that. I forgot. Yeah, McClellan's.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great
Yeah.
place to go in and get
And,
your chocolate sundae at the counter.
Then
I love
your
that place.
places like Wallace's, they were very busy.
Yeah.
I mean, they had TVs,
Oh,
radios,
yeah. Records.
records, all that kind of stuff, and people were buying that up like crazy. And
Now, is that because all of a sudden we got inundated with all this traffic, and now we have Route 2 intersecting with 201, and we got traffic coming and going, and we changed? I remember when it used to be slanted parking.
Yep.
Diagonal
yeah, I
parking.
do too.
Does that detract or take away from it, or is it the big box stores?
Well, I think it's a combination of several different things.
You do?
Box stores be just one of them.
Because it's kind of a sad loss to me. And
It
maybe
was, because downtown was, like I said, it was so vibrant, so
Yeah.
much going on.
Yeah.
And you had, like I said, a patrol officer on every street. And quite often they had to be out in the street directing traffic because
Yeah.
there was that much traffic.
Yeah. I do think too, now that I'm thinking of it, don't you suppose, because every family worked for a shoe shop, and both worked and there was money, people had money to
Yeah.
spend, and I don't know that that's the case now, that people have money like that to spend.
I'm not sure they do either.
Because that was part of the vibrancy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, everybody had a job.
Yep.
Everybody was, and they weren't afraid to work like you were. A few months here at a grocery store and a few months there.
You worked wherever you could
Yeah.
make a buck, and
Yeah. And there weren't a lot of laws applying to it too.
No.
You
No.
16, 15, you
Yeah.
want a job, you got one. Packing groceries,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
When you just mentioned packing groceries, I remember groceries were put in a cardboard box.
I remember that too.
And I think for a long time there were no shopping carts. They might to go
Yeah.
around in the store.
And now here we're going so that they're trying out this new philosophy where you can actually go in and you have a PIN number, and you can take just what you need and walk out of the store with it. And you
Well, that, and the other thing I think you're seeing, and they're already doing it on a trial basis in places, you don't go shopping. You just call up and tell them what you want. They pack it together and deliver it to you.
that's
So-
getting doggone like
It
that
does.
takes the community out of it.
That's exactly right.
That
And
takes
it's
the
another way
community.
to make us a lazier society,
Yep.
I think. That's,
Yeah.
I agree.
But that's,
If we could fix this world, we would.
I'd like to turn it back a couple of pages.
Me too. Well, Carl, I think we cobbled together an interesting
Well, let's hope
segment
so.
here.
Yeah.
I've had a good time anyway. And I think we'll maybe add a few pictures to this for you folks to enjoy. Thank you, Carl, for being here. Thank you,
you.
John, for taping. Thank you very much, Joyce Foley, for making this all possible. Till next time, Skowhegan over the decades.